For example, there have been many outlets, but I'll concentrate on one. National Public Radio went looking for one of these fictitious millionaire job creators. A reporter reached out to the business groups, the anti-tax lobby, and Republicans in Congress, hoping to interview one of these millionaires. Days ticked by with no luck. Millionaire job creators are like unicorns. They're impossible to find and don't exist.
It's safe to say one casino executive who will not be there is the guy who used to own the Bellagio, Steve Wynn.
The policies of this administration have destroyed the living standard of the working class in America. What is ostensibly the base of the Democratic Party is taking the worst hit in history because of these unbelievably uninformed policies of this president and his colleagues who have fostered this ridiculous class warfare, these nonsensical policies that have been proven to be ineffective and unsuccessful everywhere they've ever been tried in the world.
But Steve, I mean, I know you've been a big supporter and backer and confidant of Harry Reid, the prominent Democratic senator from Nevada, just squeaked by with the re-election. And he endorsed this health care plan, led the charge in the Senate for the president. Were these costs escalating even prior to health care coming, or did they just get out of control since health care came?
My friend Harry Reid hung up on me the other day for the first time in 40 years. That's what it's come to. I supported a Democratic congresswoman named Shelley Berkeley. I called her during Obamacare. I said, Shelley, what are you doing? How do you do this? This is killing the unions and all of us that are supplying health care to our employees. And she said to me, quote, now this is not hearsay. Shelley said to me, and she's running for the Senate, Steve, I know it's terrible. My husband's a doctor. He hates it too. But if I don't vote for it, she will punish me, she being Nancy Pelosi.
Wow.
And I said, Shelley, every politician that's ever sold out their constituency has had a lame, terrible rationalization like the one you just gave me. Don't ever call me again. He says, I'm sorry you disappointed me. I still love you. And we ended the conversation. That's politics in America today. And if any businessman or any working person doesn't understand that this is a turning point in American history, then I'm afraid we're going to get what we deserve.
The massive layoffs we've had in America today have, of course, are rooted in the last administration. And it's very clear that private sector jobs have been doing just fine. It's the public sector jobs where we've lost huge numbers. And that's what this legislation is all about. And it's unfortunate, my friend, the Republican leader, is complaining about that.
Mr. Schiff.
Thank you. My name is Peter Schiff, and I guess you can say I am in the economic and financial gloom and doom business. And thanks to this body, President Obama, the Federal Reserve, business is booming. And I want to talk, specifically about jobs. I'm an employer. I employ about 150 people. I would probably employ 1,000 more if it weren't for government regulations that have inhibited my ability to hire and grow my business and have forced me to move portions of my business overseas in order to escape the regulatory burden here. But the question is, why do I hire people? Where are these jobs coming from? Jobs in a free market, they come from two things. They come from profits or the profit motive, and they come from capital. You need both to create jobs. And in a free market, there's going to be jobs. And if there aren't enough jobs, Congress has to ask, what are we doing to inhibit this process? How are we preventing jobs that would normally be here from coming into existence? Now, in order for me to hire somebody, I have to be able to make a profit. That means that the person I hire has to deliver to me more value than the cost of employing them. And the cost of employing them is not just the wages I pay them, but it's all the mandatory benefits, the taxes, and more importantly, the legal liability that I incur when I hire somebody. In fact, one of the riskiest things you can do in America is to hire somebody. And because of that reason, because of all the liability from government, from lawsuits that you have put on employers, most small businesses their main concern is how not to hire people. How can I grow my business and hire as few people as possible? That is not something that happens in the market. That is something that happens as a consequence of government. The other thing that you need to create jobs, in addition to profit, is capital. People work for me because I have capital. I have tools that my employees lack. They come to work, I give them an office, I give them secretarial support, I give them computers, I give them leads, I give them a brand, I give them all sorts of things. But where does capital come from? It comes from savings. It comes from underconsumption. Either I have to save it myself or I have to borrow it from somebody else. But there is no money to borrow because it's all going to government or something that government guarantees, like education or home mortgages. There is no credit available for small businesses. It's actually a paradox, but what we need is higher interest rates. Higher interest rates encourage savings. These low interest rates are of no benefit to typical businesses. Yeah, it benefits government. Government can borrow all this money through the bond market. Some of the major corporations have access to cheap money. Wall Street can gamble with it. But small businesses, they can't sell bonds. They need to borrow money, and there's no savings available. There is nothing there. So businesses can't get capital, and there is no incentive now to hire because the costs are too high. You're looking at somebody who's sitting here who was actually fined, and I'd be happy to talk my experience. I was fined $15,000 by security regulators because I hired too many people. Because I hired too many people, I incurred over $500,000 in legal bills defending myself because I hired too many people. Because I hired too many people, I've been on a hiring freeze ordered by regulators for 3 years. They have not let me hire people. They have not let me open new offices, despite the fact that I was dying to do it. I had plenty of demand. My business was growing, unfortunately, thanks to what you guys were doing. But regulators prohibited me from doing this. And there's all sorts of ways that rules and regulations have inhibited my business. In fact, it's now so expensive. I started my securities firm in 1996. There is no way that I could have started that firm today. I have an entire compliance department. It costs me millions of dollars a year just to stay in business, just to comply with rules and regulations that are not doing anything to protect my customers.
Thank you, Mr. Schiff. We appreciate that.